This broadcast is appropriate for all ages right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. I am Cameron right here talking about things and stuff today, particularly movies, particularly Slither, which is available on HBONow.com. I tried to find it other places, didn't really see it. I'm not going to say this is the most popular movie, and if you don't like horror movies or sci-fi, it's really not going to be up your alley. So let's just throw those disclaimers out there right now. But for those who do, it's actually got a pretty good production budget. I would say for what it looks like, there's a lot of practical effects in here. There is, of course, a significant amount of CG as well. Particularly for the little slithery slug things that you see on the advertisement. Or the biggest, most notable one back in the day was the one where she's in the bathtub, because why not, and all the little slug things are coming after her. So the fact that there's slugs in this movie of some kind is not a surprise. And I would say after all this time, the premise of the movie shouldn't be a big surprise either. It's that some kind of alien comes to Earth and starts taking people over using these little slugs. That's the premise of the movie, so that should not be a spoiler in of itself. Um, so we definitely shouldn't do that. So the spoiler-free review of this is that I love this movie, but it is kind of bad. The dialogue in particular, I'm so awesome. The dialogue in particular is not written super well, but a lot of it is supposed to be this campy feel to it, and the other bit is the alien talking that doesn't really like use English well. Um, you throw that on top of it being set in like a little hick town, essentially, and that's really what you're working with. Nathan Fillion's in this, Elizabeth Banks, the angry dad from Mallrats. I can't remember his real name. But that's really it as far as celebrities go, and there's not a lot to this movie. It's a horror movie, it's a sci-fi movie, it's a monster movie, but it's a horde movie instead. It's a horde slash body snatching movie instead of a where's the creepy monster type movie, and that's just what it is. Everybody likes different things, and that's what this one happens to be. And if it's not your bag, that's fine. I get it. I'm about ready to switch over to some romantic comedies. Next week's movie became this close to being panned because I just saw that and I was like, I'm watching this because that was on HBO now as well. Um, Sorry, I'm eating an orange as opposed to drinking, and maybe it's not the best decision. So let's see. I did watch Pan, but I'm not going to talk about that today. And I watched most of Pretending We Were Kissing, which you probably skip. But definitely see Pan if you get a chance. Well, if we can, I'll rotate that in later. I don't know if we'll still be around, but hey, whatever. Um, let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into the scene by scene. I can't wait to get into this. It's an old enough movie that we really shouldn't need a spoiler-free section. I think that I'm about ready to ditch that if we don't go to a more conversational format. But I need other people here. This is a format that I can follow on my own. So our opener is an asteroid in space, and I think once it hits atmosphere, it stops being an asteroid. Maybe it's a meteorite at that point. And then we've got bored cops sitting in a car. Nathan Fillion's trying to sleep. The older guy's speed checking a bird because what else are you gonna do? Um, the asteroid finally touches down behind them. They're too lazy to even notice. Or bored. I don't know. Like you would think, like if they're that bored, they would notice, but if they're being lazy, then they're not paying attention to anything. There's some weird camera panning going on through the woods and stuff, and then like there's this egg thing that cracks open. Um, Now, I would like a proper prologue. Maybe it's in the DVD extras or whatever of how the thing got from wherever it was into space to come to Earth, because it's not answered throughout the entire movie of how that comes to be. Um, the fate of the planets that it's been to, multiple planets by the way, is. And I don't know what happens to the rest of him before that happens. Um, but then we go to the street. It's a small rednecky type town. I'm not trying to be derogatory. It's obviously the feel they were going for. It's very rural, very backwater. Um, and of course we have a mayor with some kind of foul mouth. He ends up cursing out the guy in front of him in traffic, in front of some little girl and his mom, or her mom. Uh, and the attitude that's set forth here is easy come, easy go. So to me, that the mayor is supposed to be like the representative of the town, so that kind of represents the attitude of the town. That it's very much, oh, oh well, and that's what everybody's been living their life like. So then we go to a classroom. We see Elizabeth Banks as the hot school teacher discussing, at a very odd point, Darwinism to what looks like kids that are too young to give a shit. And it looks very disingenuous. Disingenuous. It looks fake. That's what it looks like. It's just so ill-suited and skewed. And why would you start that discussion at a point where the bell's going to ring on you? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Outside, an older guy, it's the dad from Mallrats, husband grabs her away from talking to some guy. We don't know. So obviously we established that her husband is jealous, most likely because he's old and she's young. It's Elizabeth Banks. So you can make your own distinguishes from there. There's a lot of people above her, but that's a pretty high bar as it is. Just personally, I'm saying. I'm not saying she's not attractive. Jeez. Catch 22 if I ever had one. And then Nathan Fillion, of course, gives us this very blatant exposition of what the situation is, and it becomes very clear that he's the childhood friend that she's destined to be with. So, in the bedroom, she's not into it. He's obviously like super horny. He's very obviously a traditionalist. He's out making the bread. She's doing whatever she does, and that's cute. But he's obviously expecting her to do him. Let's call it what it is. He wants it. She refuses, and he acknowledges it. He doesn't rape her. Like, I'm gonna give him points for not being a complete monster, and just being like, because you would think that people don't get points, and this is a character. The character doesn't get points for not doing the horrible thing, but in stories and in real life where all this horrible shit happens, I'm going to say he's a good enough guy to at least respect that she doesn't want to have sex with him right then. And that there might be some genuine feeling for her. But he leaves. He walks away. So good for him there. But I think he goes to a bar where like the worst karaoke in the world is happening, like worse than me. The crying game. Is what she's singing. Let's see. And Grant just starts drinking away. Grant being the husband. Some girl, Brenda, approaches him and basically says she's wanted to do him since she was 10 or 11. The phrasing wasn't exact, but she was game. Now, in this character, for whatever reason, when I first saw this movie, when it first came out, that first year, oh so long ago, and I don't even remember when it was, like, I don't remember being so into her, but she's actually really pretty now, and here I stand at 32. So, like, I just wanted to note that she deserves that nod of a compliment. Maybe I'm just maturing. Nah. And then for whatever reason, we're out in the woods. They're like making out or whatever. She shows him like where she wrote their stupid initials on the tree, and he actually refuses her advances, even though he's in a bad situation to begin with. So again, he gets points, not a lot, but he's got a couple points on the board. and they run across the egg thing that we saw crash earlier. And I'm really curious because, like, for however reason, there was the meteorite, and then there was a trail leading from the meteorite to the egg thing. So was it rolling around? Was it slugging it up on its own? And they find the egg sac thing, and like a stinger appears, and he's just either too drunk or too stupid. Um, Whenever a stinger shows up, get away from it. Just get away from it. Because it shoots him and it digs into his chest, and he falls over. And apparently that's the alien. Is it boils down to like the meteorite being its spaceship, and then the egg sac being, I don't know if it's its body, and then like he just jerked off into him, or if like that was a mobile unit and the stinger's actually him, but the alien digs into his skin and starts taking him over, and it's you get like this X-ray shot of it happening. But he wakes up bleeding from his nose and ears, and he wanders away without saying anything to Brenda. There's some questions in the air, even after the movie's over, like that. Just like, okay, and we're just supposed to accept this and move forward, I think. But back home, not Grant. I forgot to write it there. Starts looking for meat. It's one of my favorite stupid little lines to say, just nonsensically, is meat. Because that's what he's doing the whole time. He's looking for meat, and it's obvious that the alien needs protein to process things and to do what it does, and we'll get to what that is. But down in the basement, he starts dumping leaves on the ground to make a bed. I don't know why, because obviously Grant has memories of what a fucking bed is, and I'm not so sure that the alien just really likes to sleep in leaves that much. Back upstairs, not Grant is following music upstairs to find Starla. Oh, yeah, this is on the main floor. Okay, trying to seduce Grant. And no, I think I found a discrepancy with her name. It may not be Starla, but it's what I wrote down. Um, and she's just the saint of a character. Like, so she wants to make up for rejecting him before. She hates that she made him feel bad. She is his wife. And if they're gonna bang people, like that's who they're supposed to bang in that relationship. And he plays off the stinger mark that he's got as a bug bite. And he finally talks, so you're not gonna have this mute pod person. He's actually gonna pretend to be a person. But apparently they bang, and it's a special moment for everyone. At school, Starla's super happy about it. Like, there's a lot of like just little scenes that pop back and forth just to give you enough information. But she senses changes in him. At the grocer, Grant's just buying up steaks. He has like a truck full of meat by the end of it. And he's not concerned about being suspicious buying all this meat, because he's just like, give me 14, 40. It's and it's a small town, and if you've ever been in a small town, people talk and they're assholes. Oh, so back home, Starlet sees the new lock on the basement door, and he gets the funny feeling about looking at Starla's butt. Oh, so maybe they didn't. No, yeah, they banged. But I just thought it was funny that like it's her butt that is the thing, because butts. Okay, so outside he looks like he feels unwell, and then he might have killed the dog. I think it's very obvious he killed the dog, but it's off screen. It's the black screen type thing. Upstairs, Not Grant is getting sweats. He's starting to break out in spots. He's getting noises that he got right before he killed the dog, and presumably they're like, hey, I'm hungry, so he must have ate the dog from earlier, but he's getting that around Starla now, and so we don't know if he's going to eat her or if he's got some kind of other urge, because she's in the shower, and then like these tentacles start crawling out of his chest, but he manages to tuck them away, and I guess this is supposed to be some kind of setup that he loves Starla enough that he resisted the urges to devour her. At this point, it's unclear, but I think he was gonna make her into a womb. And we'll get into that more later. Out of the hoedown, Starla shows up alone at the shindig, and Nathan starts acting interested like. And then Grant shows up at Brenda's to do her, because Brenda likes that. This, I don't know, it's almost like they're supposed to be cheating on each other, but like they changed the writing. So Mary gives some douchebag speech, and Bill and Starla are dancing. Nathan Fillion's character is Bill. And at Brenda's, Grant and Brenda start dressing down to get it on. And of course, Brenda's scared of his chest because it's like this huge rash, and the tentacles jump out and they like stab Brenda, and they start climbing into her. She starts convulsing. Maybe it was good for her. And I'm pretty sure he ate the baby. I'm not positive. Just based off what I can remember. But Starla finally comes home to like a power outage, and Grant claims he has a bee sting, so he looks so horrible. It's not very convincing, but Starla, like, you start seeing things that you don't want to see, and you explain them away to yourself. And I think that's where Starla goes. Because she's at school, and she calls the doctor that Grant says he talked to. So it finds out there's this big lie. And it turns out that, like, when she goes to the basement to check it out, there's a bunch of animal parts everywhere because, yeah, he's been eating animals. My question is, if he's bothering to eat these animals, why is there anything left? Maybe it's just not good at using human mouths to consume things? I'm not sure. And then in the car, Starla's seeing like a lot of missing pet posters because it's a small town. There's only so many places you put stuff like that. And then, yeah, okay, so not Grant is now dragging this garbage bag full of animal parts to Brenda, who's chained up in a shed in the woods. And she's more concerned about being hungry than she is imprisoned, which is never a good sign. But he gives her, like, a chunk of dog or something, and she eats it because she's just that hungry. And it's a little crazy, but whatever. Um, let's see. So the police finally get after Grant for Brenda being missing, and then Starla. Oh, that's when Starla knocks off the base. Before it's just we're shown Grant, and she discovers everything that's going on down there. That fiasco. I still don't understand why the dog falls from the ceiling. It's way too dramatic. And then Starla calls the police back. Now Grant chases and attacks her, and that's where he starts really transforming. His arm starts going all bendy and tentacly. The police show up and scare him off. And then 3 days later, because we needed one of those, the mayor is trying to get the issue resolved, and there's a manhunt. Because they determine he's in the woods and he's like killing farm animals like cows and stuff. And they set up at this one house, and the family's like having dinners. It's sweet families, dad and a mom and these sweet little twins and angsty teenage daughter. Because why not? God, and they're a bunch of idiots. So they're sitting out there all night. Oh my gosh! But like, he shoots a cow like with his tentacles and drags it off through the woods. A cow. No idea how big a cow is. Do some googling. It's huge. He's this big slug thing at this point. And he's obviously hostile. He actually eviscerates a guy from crotch to top, which is a really good scene, but fuck, it's gross. And then he literally slides away. It's like really kind of crude CG that he's sliding across the forest floor like that. But the posse chases after him because they lose it immediately because they're just that good. God. Okay, so for whatever reason, they get to the shed, and they find Brenda. At this point, she's like filled up the room. She's huge. I have no idea how the human body manages that because her hands are literally like inside her body from where it's swollen, and she's still hungry. Um, but apparently, she's conscientious enough of what's happening that she's able to say that their little fuckers are tearing me apart. Right before she explodes, and slugs go everywhere. It's literally like a sea of slugs, and they almost make these cute little squeaky noises, and they're like. I mean, it's more of a pig sound. I can't do it, but it's just a little squeaky toy sound, or like a little chirping, and it just wants to get in your mouth and take over your brain. That's all it wants. Stupid cats are fighting across the house. And then we go back to the farmhouse because that's the nearest location we have to where this happens. And some of the officers and everything go down, but we get Bill, the mayor, and Elizabeth Banks' character. Yeah, she's there. They all manage to avoid it, and they're trying to tend to the wounded. Um, oh my god. So at the farmhouse, we have the girl in the bath because why not? Because we need a teenager in a bath. It's a requirement for horror movies, I think. And the slugs are climbing up the side of the house, which actually changes the whole dynamic of what's happening. They're not just climbing over each other, they're actually like slugging it up the side of the house. Mom puts the twins to sleep, and the slugs are climbing across the window. We even have in the bathtub, one of the slugs gets in and it gets to the water and it starts swimming. And I question, does it have to go in the mouth? Now, granted, the mouth is the biggest orifice nearest to the brain, and maybe that's what they need, but like these are like chewy little slug things that are going to burrow in anyways. So it could have very easily climbed in her cunt her ass. Just saying. But the biological design, it's designed to go in the mouth. I get it. Um, so, for whatever reason, it actually gets to her mouth, and she actually manages to dig in and stop it when no one else has been able to. But it does whatever it does once it gets towards the brainstem and actually starts to interface with her. So she gets the download for the information, but the command console, which is the slug, isn't installed, so it's not going to be able to relay commands. But I think she did have like a short communication span with him, and she got a lot of dirt on him, essentially. But basically, her whole family's taken, despite whatever efforts she puts in, which aren't a lot. But and then she jumps from the second story down to the ground. And other than the fact that she's barefoot, not a big deal. As big deal as they make it. They wanted to look like a very dramatic scene. It's not. Like, yeah, tuck and roll if you want, but it's one story. You'll live through it. Unless you're just something's wrong with you, because there is that sort of thing. So back at the shed, one of the officers starts to wake up and talking to Starla, and apparently we get the point that he's able to actually control them finally, because that's the only reason for any of this. And then everyone else starts waking up, and it's really like a kind of a fucked up, weird scene. It's not so much scary as creepy. And then what was it? Oh yeah, the female deputy that's there, she gets spat on, and like so we establish acid attacks, which really doesn't come up so much. Just saying. Oh yeah, and then in the woods we saw a deer go down to one of the slugs, which was interesting. I wanted to see more of that sort of thing. yeah, so Kylie's family wakes up and starts chasing her. Uh, oh yeah. So we get a really nice scene of Starla facing off against Grant through Wally, the older officer, and she totally blows his head off, and the little slug thing like wiggles away. Like she didn't kill the slug, but she blew his head off just enough so the slug go, oh, this body's broken. Let me find another one. Kill the damn slug after that happens. Ugh. But they didn't pump the shotgun. Why don't they understand how to pump a shotgun? So they drop it and run. I don't get it. I don't get it. But they, fucking, they run to the farmhouse and they manage to save Kylie at least. And everybody's walking like zombies, which I don't understand because Grant had full use for the most part. The officers and the family seem to have full use. I don't understand why we would have zombies. Unless the slugs were taking over dead people, then maybe. Or they were killed in the process. Because it's very unclear if the slugs, when they take over, if they're actually killing the person that they're riding. Because it would make sense that if you kill, not Grant, that the slugs, the communication to the slugs would be good. Well, I guess the slugs would still be living in their brains. So yeah, they're dead people. I guess it makes sense then. I literally didn't piece that together till now. Oh yeah. So and then we have this weird little moment where Shelby on the radio embarrasses Bill about his mom. And the mayor gets upset about Mr. Pibb. It's just like a lot of nonsense, really. Like it's a natural reaction, honestly, and maybe it helps towards the suspension of disbelief. Like with everything going on, you try to focus on something little as a victory, and when that's taken away, you can really lose your mind. Now they have exposition here about the alien through Kylie because she talked about it, and she talks about it's immortal. Versus reproductive, and they have kind of a weird conversation where in actuality that conversation could be really interesting. You have things like jellyfish that when it's time to die they just rebirth themselves and they live on that way, but most species strive for immortality through reproductive means, where they just bang a lot and have lots of babies. That's what it is. So that's the basis of it, but you could actually have a really good philosophical conversation based on that. Let's see. Oh yeah, they start capturing people instead of turning them with the slugs, because I guess they've got enough soldiers for the moment. Let's see. They go after the grenade. Bill fights a deer. The deer that we saw in the woods, which it's just a funny scene to say Nathan Fillion fought a deer once. Still, it's just funny. And then it looks like some of the drones are killing people and taking them away for food, or maybe they're knocking them out and dragging them away. I didn't really pay attention that much, because this whole town's got to be a setup, or like a staging point essentially. Like the alien comes down, it sets up camp, and then it goes from there. And based on what we know, it's going to take over the entire planet, and merge everything into one central being somehow, which is weird, but it's supposed to be weird. So the back at Starla's Grant's house, it's all boarded up. Starla's been washed and dressed in this nightgown thing. I think it's the same nightgown that they slept together in the first time when not Grant slept with her. The mayor wakes up in that horrible little basement, and there's a really hungry lady. And I think the idea is that they're supposed to be wombs, like Brenda was. And of course, then the mayor is injected. And looking at how Brenda gave birth, it doesn't matter if they're male or female. They're just there to eat and produce babies. Broodmares, if you will. So not Grant starts calling for Starla. Like the rest of this happens really quick. Like the most action in the movie happens in the last half hour. Um, so she grabs like this pointy-handled mirror or whatever, so that she's got a stabbing implement. Grant puts on the song from the time they slept together. She follows it downstairs. Um, the mayor starts eating dead people because he's just that hungry. And he's like crying while he does it. Let's see. So she goes to the living room. There's basically, or maybe it's the foyer. There's a starless shrine and pictures there from Not Grant. And then he's growing in the next room. He's become this. He's moved away from being a slug and is just this giant blob with tentacles and shit. And outside, the drones are physically joining Not Grant through like a hole in the wall. So they're just kind of climbing up his butt and merging together. And the practicals there are really good. Let's see. Oh, there's this whole angry exposition between Starla and Not Grant about her cheating on him. It really takes up way too much of the personality of the person that, or the thing that it's taking over, for it to be effective, in my opinion. It's just the fact of it. Let's see. And it's claiming it's gonna grow till it's all there is, which means it's gonna take over every bug, every mouse, everything. Is it gonna eat all the grass too? Like I just don't know. Like it doesn't answer these questions. But funny enough, they start an assault. They start killing drones, which tips off Not Grant, which is always a bad idea, but you got to do it. It's just one of those things when you have a tactical situation. Let's see. So Grant starts attacking. They lose the grenade, obviously, because that was never going to happen. And I don't like, especially since none of them seem to really know how the grenade is going to work. Like you'd really have to put it inside Grant for it to do enough damage. My favorite part of the whole movie, I think, though, is when Kylie gets hit with a couch and lives, because the couch didn't just hit her. The couch hit her and carried her into the wall behind her, and then she was laying under the couch protectively the whole time, which is super convenient, but that would have fucked her up. So outside, Bill gets half-wombed or whatever, so he gets one tentacle, and then the other one he ends up, I don't know how this works, filling it up with propane. And I would imagine the tentacles are one way, but this would argue against that, so I don't know. I don't know. Not Grant would not feel it properly. So he ends up filling Grant up with propane, essentially. It's just I'm stunned that could be a thing that happens. And then somehow Starla gets her hand on a gun, and she's the one, of course, that has to shoot him because that's poetic. Now, again, nobody here has any idea of how explosives work. I think Starla's actually just trying to shoot him like she would anybody, and Bill happens to know that there's explosive in there. However, I'm not sure why shooting something filled with propane would make it explode. I don't think propane is like C4 where you can hit it to make it explode. It would require an ignition, which would be on the gun, not the bullet that hits him. But it is a slug movie, so he explodes, everyone falls down, and then Starla, Bill, and Kylie, to kind of represent the American family, I think, walk through a lot of dead people and down the road to the hospital in the next town because their town has to be just totaled at this point. Now, it may seem like I was kind of down on this movie because it's not a great movie, but it's entertaining as shit, and I actually really liked it. I'm not going to watch it repeatedly. I'm not going to watch it every year or anything like that. But when it comes up, I'm happy to watch it because I was like, I remember this. This is horrible. Oh, let's have some fun. So I get left with a good feeling, but it is a dumb movie, and if you don't like stupid horror, sci-fi type stuff, you're not going to enjoy this one, and that's fine. But I think it's a notable movie for as far as that goes, and it's a reminder that I can steer clear of this sort of thing in the future. But I do like hanging on to the sci-fi angle, and I'm going to continue that. I think next week or next time, I'll say, because we did have a bit of a break there last week, is going to be Eva. You can watch it on Netflix. Go ahead and watch the movie. Comment or tweet at us at WeAreMovieClub. Um, if you're into doing videos or blogs or whatever, you include the hashtag WeAreMovieClub. And let us know what you thought. Let us know what you thought of this. We'll be talking about that next time. Yay! Yay for movies. Yay for Netflix and Tiny Robot Girls, which is what Eva is about. So, till you see me next time, this has been hashtag WeAreMovieClub. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and it'll take you to other channels. Thanks for watching.